Hi and welcome to Tweet Street. I'm Mick Tiffany and I'm a novice lizard canary keeper and breeder. Join me on my journey as I strive to breed birds good enough for the show bench. Welcome back everybody to another episode of Tweet Street. This one's particularly a more special episode. When I started doing this just shortly after, I was contacted by Andy Beesley, a champion breeder, a gentleman I'd purchased some birds off at the end of last year, and he'd asked if he could do an introduction into lizard canaries, and of course I said yes, because that's exactly what we need for the hobby and the understanding of the hobby. He'll go in chatting about the history of the lizard canary, the requirements for show birds, which is important for people obviously who want to take this up and go towards showing their birds. The clarifications of the cap of the bird, some great explanations there. Difference in the feather, i.e. the gold and the silver birds. Section of the lizard canaries, he'll go into detail about all of that, and you'll absolutely love this. It's 23 minutes long, it's brilliant. It's going to be on as a freestanding video to watch on my YouTube channel. And there are going to be links in all my episodes above so that people can just link onto it. So if they like what they see me doing in future episodes, they can link back and get all the stats off of here, which will be brilliant. Now you're going to really need to subscribe, like, hit that bell for notifications, and share this. This is really, really, really good, really professionally done, not quite like myself, and you're going to love it. So without any further ado, I'll splice his introduction into the rest of this production, and I think you'll love it. So good luck, enjoy, and we'll speak to you all soon.
Good day, everybody. First of all, I'll introduce myself. My name's Andy Beesley. I'm a returning champion lizard canary breeder and exhibitor. Been in the hobby since I was about probably 10 or 11 years of age. Came into bird keeping because my dad kept budgerigars, and always intended to breed and exhibit myself, but couldn't show the same kind of birds as my father. So after trying many different birds as a junior, eventually I settled on the lizard canary through junior status, novice status, and champion status before kind of stopping in the mid-90s due to personal and work commitments. But like I said, coming back into the hobby a few years ago. Before going further, I'd like to thank Mick Tiffany for giving me the opportunity to share this presentation that I'm going to share shortly on his platform, Tweet Street. Hats off to Mick. As Mick knows, I do intend to share some content on YouTube as time goes on, but really, really do appreciate Mick giving me the opportunity to do so on here as well. So with that, I'm going to now share a screen. Bear with me. Pop it into presenter mode, and let's take it from there. So I'm basically going to focus a few slides just to give people a bit of information in terms of the classic lizard canary. So that's the lizard canary that effectively we know as being bred and exhibited and shown effectively in gold and silver colour format effectively. Like I said before, my objective is to put some content out on YouTube myself at some point, but again, like I said, really appreciate Mick giving me the opportunity to share some detail on here. Going to give it a little bit of history first of all. So cast your mind back. I mean, the wild canary was effectively first introduced to Europe some 500 years ago. It was not until the 18th century that serious attempts were made to develop distinct varieties of canary, effectively. It's commonly believed that the lizard was brought to Britain by the Huguenot refugees fleeing religious persecution in France and the Low Countries, although there was only circumstantial evidence to support this theory. English texts in the first half of the century do confirm that the most highly esteemed canaries were the fine spangled sort, or French so-called for the breed brought over from France. The activities of early fanciers are not well documented, but by 1742, and keep these dates in mind, spangled canaries with dark wings and tail and a spot on the head called by fanciers a cap have been described in detail. These are principal features, of course, of the variety we know today as the lizard canary, silver clearcap, or of course gold clearcap. Then a bit more detail. Early reference to the lizard by name is in the British Aviary and Bird Breeders Companion, and again another key date, 1825. As the class of canaries known by the name of lizards, having a clean yellow cap, their black back and breasts be spangled all over with green and black, resembling the colour of that small creeping creature from which they derived their name. First illustration of a lizard canary appears to be in the issue of the London Illustrated News on the 12th of December 1846, another key date. And the bird there depicted has remained unchanged pretty much up until the present day. Accordingly, the lizard can claim to be the oldest distinct variety of exhibition canary, and the Lizard Canary Association of Great Britain has the responsibility of safeguarding and promoting its interests, particularly as in 1945, when the LCA was formed, it was believed only 30 pairs remained in the UK after World War II, some 100 years later after that image was published, of course, in 1846. So again, look at those key dates, 1742, 1825, then 1846, and 100 years later, almost extinct, but thankfully not the case today, mainly due to the preservation and protection, which clearly is crucial, of what we call our living antique. So let's take a look at the classic lizard canary utilising the LCA scale of points. So here we have the model. The first thing to take consideration for, of course, is the cap. So the cap typically should be clear, oval, thumb-shaped, and that would amass 10 points from a judging perspective. Another key area as we come down the bird is the eyelash. So that's the dark unbroken line above the eye, which would attain 5 points. Real key area of the lizard canary, of course, are the spangles. They should be regular and distinct, and they would attain 25 points. And as you can see on this exhibit here, the spangles start off small down the back of their neck and gradually get larger as they work their way down the back before they meet the wings and the lacings. Now, if this was a broken cap, you would want to see some of that spangle running through the head, and the same if it was a non-cap. So a judge effectively would look at a non-cap and judge the spangles in the head to kind of get to that 10-point area when they're kind of considering the bird as a non-cap rather than a clear cap. And we'll talk about caps on a slide coming up. Pointed out about the lacings. So the lacings here, as you can see, they should be regular and distinct, and they would amass 5 points. And then we have another key feature being the rowings. So they should be in line, lineable and distinct, and they would attain 10 points. A key distinguishing factor of the lizard canary, legs, claws and beak and wings and tail should be dark. In the case of wings and tail, should be neat and dark. So for the legs, claws and beak, they would attain 5 points. And for the wings and tail, that would be 10 points. Then more points are attained by feather quality. So the feather quality should be smooth and silky, 15 points. Ground colour should be deep and even, 10 points. And the presentation effectively should be steady, in perfect condition, and that would amass 5 points to make that 100-point total. Again, the lizard canary isn't a bird of type, posture or size, but the size typically should be around 13.5 centimetres and a stance in a show cage of around 45 degrees. And again, you know, as we said, there's no points for size because the lizard canary isn't a bird of size. The bird is bred specifically based on these unique markings and features and should be viewed that way, sure. So let's bring it to life, looking again at those scalar points, but bring it to life on a actual bird. So this is a clear-cap silver hen. And again, you can see those key distinguishing features, the points allocated, but on a live bird effectively rather than the model itself. Moving forward, we touched on the caps. So first of all, a clear cap lizard. That's one whose cap is perfectly clear of dark feathers or feathers and has reasonable regular edges. A nearly clear cap lizard is one whose cap contains a dark feather or a few feathers which cover an area not exceeding 1/10 of the total area of the cap. Non-cap lizard is one whose head and neck are quite clear of light feathers. And a near non-cap lizard is one whose head and neck are marked by a light feather or a few feathers, but not to the extent to the extent of not exceeding 1/10 of the normal extent of the lizard cap. Then a broken cap lizard is one whose head and neck feathers disqualify it from being classed either as a clear cap or nearly clear cap or non-cap or nearly non-cap. But then some areas to be avoided, so overcap. So this is a lizard that's cap has extended too far down the back of the neck. This is a serious fault, should be avoided, and some images coming up shortly. And then a bold-faced lizard. So this is one whose cap extends the bounds of the cap below the eye and below the upper mandible. So again, this is a serious fault, and the bird should not be used in the breeding program, just the same as it shouldn't be used if it's an overcapped bird. So here's some images of the caps we've kind of talked about. So again, on the left-hand side, as you look to the right of the screen, you can see the clear cap. Then you see the non-cap to the right of that. Below that, you see something defined as a short cap. So it would have been a clear cap bird, but obviously it's quite short in the cap. And then there's that nearly clear cap with just those few feathers, dark feathers in the cap, but not exceeding 1/10, of course. Then we're drawn to the attention of the overcap bird, which again looks quite garish compared to the clear cap, and again should be avoided. And then that bold-faced bird, where the cap is extending below the beak and upper mandible and down the neck. Again, not a great look for a lizard canary, and again should be avoided at all costs. And then you see at the bottom some variations of broken caps, just to kind of give some examples of what broken caps effectively look like. So if you think of classifications of the lizard canary, as Mick's kind of pointed out on one of his previous episodes, the classes are gold and silver, which we'll talk about the colour aspect shortly, and generally, clear cap, broken cap, non-cap in males and females effectively. So that feather colour definition that I kind of touched on a second ago. So for the gold, for example, so this is the non-frosted or yellow or intensive of the lizard canary fancy compared to other canary breeds. Typically, it should be uniform in depth and a rich gold bronze, entirely free of suggestions of other shade. This is the official definition for a colour-fed gold lizard. And as we look at the screen, you can kind of see to the left, this is a clear cap gold hen. That's actually what we call a natural. So this is a bird that's not being colour fed, because again, you can actually exhibit both in the UK from a classification perspective. And on the right hand side, you have the non-cap gold male. This bird has been with the pink ring has been colour fed. And again, you can see a really good example of that gold colour there. And then again, from a feather colour definition perspective, if we take into consideration the silver. So silver should be the frosted or buff or non-intensive of the lizard canary fancy. The silvery lizard should possess a deep ground colour of a warm buff tone. Over mealiness is to be discouraged. Again, official definition for a colour-fed bird. To the left, we have a broken cap, silver cock. Again, natural, non-colour fed. And to the right, not a best example from a colour-fed perspective in terms of colour from what you can see on the screen, but it's a broken cap silver hen that is colour-fed. Again, just to give you an example of what those silvers compared like to golds. Moving on, one of my favourite parts and something that Mick alluded to in one of his earlier episodes, and that's that transformation. This is a bit I particularly love about the Lizard Canary. So if you take after the newly hatched images, you see that appearance of the birds when they're in their nest feather on the left-hand side, the two birds that are depicted there. But then the middle picture depicts a non-cap, what turned out to be a non-cap silver hen. And you can just see, still in its nest feather on its head and down its neck, but you can start to see the spangles and the colour starting to come out on the breastwork. It's a particularly exciting period that when you see a bird during the molt, start to see those spangles start to appear during that molt, and you start to get a feel for what the bird could potentially look like at a particular time of the year that I really enjoy. Again, you could be potentially disappointed, but hopefully 9 times out of 10 you're happy with the result. And then the same bird is depicted on the right hand side after the molt has occurred, so fully molted out with those spangles and colour fed, and just to give you an example of that transformation. Talk a little bit about over-year birds or flighted. So the lizard canary is often known as a 1 year bird from a show point of view, although you do get very good lizard canaries from time to time that are a year old that probably don't deteriorate too much, and I'll explain the situation here. So in most cases, the lizard canary loses some definition of the markings after the second molt, basically as an adult or over year. The wings and tails show a tendency to have white tips and edging when they molt out that adult plumage. Like I said, there are examples out there that don't show those white tips. They're very, very good birds in adulthood. But generally, we do see this deterioration in the appearance of the bird in year 2, effectively. So here are 2 examples of birds in year 1 and then in year 2. They were colour fed in year 2 by me within my bird room, but the birds came to me effectively as naturals, non-colour fed. So if you see the kind of green appearance of the non-cap on the left-hand side, that was the bird when it kind of came to me prior to its adult molt, let's say. And then a year later, you start to see those white tips on the wings and so on those flight feathers, and that slight deterioration in definition in the spangles on the back, which again is a sign of an over-year bird. And then if you look at the broken cap to the right-hand side with the black ring, again you can see as a non-colour fed bird, that green bird on the right-hand side, again you can kind of see that the wing feathers and everything are perfectly intact, but then you look at it as the colour-fed bird in year 2, and you can start to see those white tips on the flights and the wings again, and that deterioration of the spangles. Again, just to give you an example of lizard canaries in that second year compared to the first year. One of the other good things about the lizard canary is most of the time you can sex the lizard canary visually. So this is sexing classic lizard canaries visually for golds. So the bird on the left is a gold female that demonstrates extensive breastwork rowings, okay? That often distinguishes it as a female, okay? Sometimes females can also have slightly less ground colour than males, so that would also be a distinguishing feature. If you look at the bird on the right-hand side with the light blue ring, this is a gold male. Key difference here is, again, that often males lack the breastwork rowings of the females and tend to have more work down the flanks. However, I've also seen males with more than average breastwork, so sometimes it can be challenging with golds. Also, males generally are richer and darker in ground colour, so that would also be a distinguishing factor between a gold male and the gold female on the left-hand side. And then if we look at sexing classic lizard canaries visually for silvers, so on the left we have a broken cap silver female, very good example actually. The first point to focus on is the cap. So the cap starts off quite dark at the front above the beak, but then starts to go paler towards the back of the head. This is normally a good way of distinguishing a hen, a female from a male effectively. So it's a good indication. Also, generally, silver hens tend to have very extensive breastwork rowings, which is also a really strong indicator that this is a female. And then on the right-hand side with the green ring, we have a clear cap silver male. The first point of focus here again is the cap, which on this occasion maintains the same colour from the front of the cap to the back of the cap. So this is a strong indicator that this is a male. Generally, again, silver cocks, like gold cocks, tend to have less breastwork rowings than females, although again, I've seen birds that have superior breastwork, but normally a gap down the middle of the chest, identifying it as a cockbird, and generally have more superior ground colour and richer colour. Again, a distinguishing feature that it would be a male. But again, great examples of the fact that you can, when the bird has molted out, often sex these birds without the need for DNA or listening to them sing or whatever, because you can actually see it visually in the birds. From an exhibition point of view, the Lizard Canary Association in the UK provide classes for colour-fed and non-colour-fed natural classic lizard canaries. For the UK exhibitors, the showcase specification can be found at the Lizard Canary Association webpage on the homepage, and here's an example of the showcase that's used in the UK. And then I just want to touch on some show preparation hints that kind of distinguish things for me regarding the classic Lizard Canary. So again, first and foremost, again, as I pointed out earlier, the Lizard Canary isn't bred for size, type or posture as with other canary breeds. The main features of the classic Lizard Canary are the visual markings, particularly the rowings, the spangles and the lacings, etc. Therefore, for me, show preparation begins with a need to potentially house or cage the show team or the young birds individually. This then avoids any feathers being dislodged, and thinking about that adult plumage, avoiding the regrowth of that adult plumage with the potential for those white tips and that frosting on the spangles and white tips on the wings. Okay. And again, those feathers tend to have a lack of clarity compared to the first year feathers. So in the images below, you can actually see examples. Again, from a show training point of view, I tend to provide two perches in these single kind of breeding cages where I house the birds singularly. I tend to space them kind of a similar distance to the show cage just to encourage steadiness. But still, regular training in the show cage is also key so that the birds are used to the surroundings, can be moved around a little bit, and also get used to the drinking hole, which is also really important because of the bird's welfare, obviously. And then going back to what I said a second ago, there's some examples here on the left where you can see this was a young bird where there's some white tips to the edge of a couple of those flat feathers there, where the young feather has been knocked out and the adult feather has grown back with those white tips. So that would penalise the bird from an exhibition point of view. You can see it in the middle on a gold. And you can kind of just about see it on the third image where some spangles have got really excessive frosting, where they've actually lost that definition where that adult plumage has come through on a young bird because it's been knocked out maybe due to squabbling or feather plucking or whatever. And again, that would penalise a bird from a show perspective. So couldn't finish off a presentation without some acknowledgements. So first of all, some of the text and images were reproduced with the kind permission of the Lizard Canary Association, and a lot of the detail can be found on their webpage. Also, Mr. Hugh Evans for some of the images that were pulled from, with his permission, from Find Spangled Sort, which is his blog that he runs regularly. And a couple of images from our good friend Mr. Pino Scalamandra in Italy also. And again, further information, my email address is there, but by all means, feel free to reach out to me at any point. And as I said, I do intend to do a bit more content on YouTube from time to time, maybe showing the 2024 breeding stock and then seeing how things perform during the course of the year and the results during the course of the year, including some shows, and maybe putting some footage out there, some Zoom meetings with some other breeders and so on, just to kind of share some thoughts and insight. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and it'd be remiss of me if I didn't say it again, but really do appreciate Mick giving me the platform to share this presentation on here. He's doing great work with what he's doing. He's got a great set of birds to work with, and you can see his husbandry welfare of his birds. He's absolutely at the forefront of what he does, and I'm really, really happy that he's doing what he's doing and sharing these activities on a regular basis and doing a great thing for the hobby. So hats off to you, Mick. Well done. It's appreciated by all of us, and we look forward to seeing more as time goes on. So with that, I'm going to leave you with it. I look forward to being able to share other things with you in the future, and I hope you enjoy the presentation when you play it back. Okay, take care and bye-bye.